Panasonic's first foray into the full-frame mirrorless camera space. The S1 can record up to 4K 60 frames per second, has fantastic stabilization, and is part of the new trinity of Leica, Sigma, and Panasonic. But is it actually any good for online content creation? Let's find out. What's up everyone, I'm the Everyday Dad, and if I can figure it out, you can figure it out. I love Panasonic cameras. My first camera ever was a Lumix G7. To this day, I think the GH5 is one of the best value cameras ever made, and my current stills camera is a G85. I'm not sponsored by Panasonic, but I want you to know that this video comes from a Panasonic fanboy's perspective. We're currently recording on a Sony, but in my heart goes to Panasonic. Before we get too far into the video, however, I do want to thank my friends over at B&H Photo for loaning me this S1 for a few weeks to make this series of videos on. If you'd like to get your very own beast full-frame mirrorless camera, there will be links in the description below. Okay, let's hop into it. And not break it. Did B&H see that? We're not breaking it. We all know by now that there are four main things that I judge cameras on for their suitability to help us creators out. The first being video quality, next being ease of use, followed by fiddliness, and finally the ecosystem / upgrade path. First up, video quality. Like I mentioned in the beginning, the S1 can record in up to 4K 60 frames per second, which is a first for consumer level full frame mirrorless cameras. It has a 24.2 megapixel sensor with the brand new Venus engine image processor. For slow motion, it can record 180 frames per second in 1080p. When it comes to autofocus, the S1 is rocking the updated version of Panasonic's depth from defocus 225 point contrast detection system, meaning that you'll get all of your snaps in focus. Video, we'll talk about that in a second. Something that I've come to terms with over the past few weeks of using the S1, this is not a full frame GH5. This is a full frame G9. That took some adjusting for me because I really wanted this to be the bigger version of my GH5, but there are some subtle differences in recording modes that might be a deal breaker for you. They kind of are for me, but we'll get more into it as we go. The S1 does not have the same amount of recording codecs as the GH5. It can do up to 422 10-bit UHD 4K at 24 and 30 frames per second internal to the camera, and it tops out at that 4K 60 in 8-bit. It also doesn't have the same slow motion capabilities. Where the GH5 has what's called variable frame rate or VFR, you can pick a whole range of frame rates and then decide in camera how you want it slowed down. Here, you just have 60 and 180 frames per second slow motion. But when it comes to what the S1 can actually do, its image quality is great. Again, I've always liked what Panasonic cameras are capable of. And this is more of the same. The images are very detailed, and I like that you can micromanage the picture profiles if you want a specific look. Currently, it cannot record in a log format, but there will be a paid upgrade in the future to record in Panasonic's Vlog, and you'll get some additional recording codecs and features with that upgrade too. And one of the things that kind of hurts is there is one recording mode that I've absolutely come to rely on with Panasonic cameras, and that's the 4K live crop. If you are any kind of like online product videographer, the 4K live crop is a godsend. It crops a 1080p image across a 4K sensor, and then that gives you the ability to have nice, consistent, and smooth and easy to get pans and tilts, and you never have to move the camera. It's great. Most of the reason I still have that G85 is because of that feature. And unless it's hiding in some of the other menu systems here, I can't find it in the S1, which really sucks. Because no matter what camera that I may be main shooting with, I always have to have at least one Panasonic camera with this ability because I use it all of the time. All of the B-roll you see of products is done with 4K live crop because it's just so useful, and it would have been really nice to have that here. Audio is far more important to me than technical image quality, and something that I'm extremely happy to see is the S1 is able to work with the GH5's XLR adapter, giving you the ability to use phantom powered microphones with just an incredibly compact addition on top of this camera. I mean, this camera's a big camera. Being able to add some fantastic audio is great, and those two things really combine together to make the S1 it has amazing video quality. It has really good image, really good audio capabilities. But don't take my word for it. Let's hop outside real quick for a video / vlogging test. Welcome to the vlogging test of the Panasonic Lumix S1. Look at this thing. Look at that thing. That is a big camera. We could get a workout. Okay, 1, 2. Okay, vlogging test. Whoop, hold on. Vlogging test, begin. Whoa. Okay, vlogging test of the Panasonic Lumix S1. Now the first impressions I have of this camera, this is a big old camera. Now again, the A7, the Z6, the EOS R, those are all bigger cameras. Like I mean, full frame mirrorless needs a bigger body. But this one just said, you know what, we're just gonna make it as big as possible because this is a darn big camera. But that buys you a few really big benefits. One, the stabilization that you're seeing right now, I find the Panasonic S1 stabilization to be just about as good as the GH5, which is incredible. Now, I do like the stabilization on like the Z6, it works perfectly fine for me, but it's not as good as the S1. One of the negatives that I'm finding, and you'll see, check out my camera person over here, the everyday wife, wave. But you see there's an ND filter on there? Well, I've got an ND filter on the S1 right now, and that's how I'm seeing what's supposed to be in frame because the S1, unfortunately, does not have a flip out screen. The G9, the GH5, the GH5S, the G85, the G7, like all of Panasonic cameras have flip out screens except for the S1. So that's kind of, I do wish they had included that because when you're by yourself, at least I'm not right now, but when you're by yourself making content, it's so much easier when you can actually judge your exposure, framing, stuff like that. So it's disappointing, but again, the Z6, the A7 III don't have flip out screens, so it's not the end of the world. But yeah, man, my arm is already tired from carrying this, but let's walk around a little bit, get some more work out of the stabilization. My shoulder's already, I don't know how good of a vlogging camera this would be because my shoulder's already like dying on me. We have had continuous autofocus on the whole time, so if you're curious how the autofocus works, well, you've already seen it now. Okay, vlogging test over, back to the video. Okay, and this is an indoor/studio test of the Panasonic Lumix S1. So this is the exact same setup that you just saw with the A7 III. That was kind of cheating because that's on a prime lens, and this is on the 24-105 kit lens, but everything else is the same. The lighting's the same, the audio's the same, everything's the same, except for on the S1. Again, I think the image quality coming out of this thing is fantastic. A few things I want to mention on quick because I realized that I forgot to mention them on ease of use. Something that's fantastic about this camera is the full-size HDMI port, and the ports on the side are just incredible. They just move out of the way, and they're awesome. They're awesome. So just, this is like a pre-ease of use, while you also get to see how it works indoors, since I realized, I totally forgot to say them, but the indoor image quality on this camera is fantastic. I mean, if you can't get a good looking image out of a full frame mirrorless camera, especially by one from the folks over at Panasonic, like, you're doing something wrong. I do wish they had some cheaper prime lens options out there. Again, we'll talk about this later. Sigma's coming out with some here shortly, so it will be a little bit better. This is the continuous autofocus with face tracking on. I can see that it's got my face because I'm using a monitor right now. Are you seeing any pulsing in the monitor back there? That's where it's gonna be real obvious if it is hunting in the background. I have found that their continuous autofocus is way better here, but it still has the contrast-based stuff going on. But yeah, this is the indoor image quality if you were to get the Panasonic Lumix S1. Back to the video. So yeah, the image quality is great. The autofocus is not the best, but it's certainly the best I've seen Panasonic pull off so far. But how easy is the camera to set up to get that amazing video quality? And the good news is, much like every other Panasonic camera, the body of the S1 is laid out very intuitively. Thankfully, like we found during the outside portion, there is plenty of room on this gigantic body. But I do really like the very bright screen on the back and all of the physical controls of the camera. I mean, you get everything like right within hand's reach, which is surprising because again, it's a huge body. Like Panasonic's other cameras, it has an incredible amount of customization, plenty of buttons, plenty of everything that you can customize to make the camera work for you. It's not all sunshine and rainbows though, because while I enjoy most of the layout on the body, there are some things that I actually really don't like. The biggest one being this scroll wheel. It's pretty darn uncomfortable. I mean, it's really small comparative to the body. It's kind of hard to press, and its location on the body makes it harder than I'd like to scroll. Like, look at that. It hurts my thumb just to like use it, so it makes it really hard to scroll between settings and menu options. But the real big problem I have when it comes to ease of use isn't the lack of a flip screen or the contrast-based autofocus. I mean, those are things that as a YouTuber, I should be complaining more about, right? The real problem for me is the new Panasonic app. I think the older Panasonic app is one of the best features a camera can have. It connects quickly, allows for full control over the camera, and it just works. I like gear that just works. I mean, it's a large percentage of the reason that I recommend the GH5 all the time, because paired with that Panasonic app, the GH5 becomes a true just like online video monster that almost nothing else can touch. The new Lumix Sync is not nearly as good. You do have control over the S1, but as of the recording of this video, it doesn't support landscape mode on an iPad. So I have to keep it like, I have to keep my iPad on its side like that to to use it, and I've had significant connectivity issues between my iPad and the S1, where sometimes it just straight up won't connect, or it'll disconnect while recording. Like it'll say get closer when like the iPad's right above it. Also, the touch to focus from the older Panasonic app just works so much better. I find that it just doesn't work on the S1. There is a focus option that you can use and will let you focus what the camera currently has set as the focus point, but unlike the old app where you could like move your finger around, let go, and it would focus on you, you can't do that with Lumix Sync. Now, I don't normally talk about apps much in my videos because I frankly don't use them. Sony, Canon, Fuji, Nikon, they all have pretty bad camera apps, so they rarely get mentioned as I never use them. But I always use the Panasonic app because it's hands down the best. So it's not good today, but I'm hopeful that some updates will come out to allow for much of what we previously had to be included here. But again, as of today, it's not even close to the functionality of the GH5. But setting up the camera can be easy. You have all the time in the world, right? What matters most to me is what happens after you hit record, and a little thing I like to call fiddliness. So how easy is the Panasonic S1 to use after you hit record? Let's find out. So as we've already mentioned, there is no flip out screen. So if you're gonna be using this to make like online content, you're not gonna be able to. So if you're gonna use this to make online content and you're out by yourself, there's no screen, so you're not gonna be able to see what's going on. So that's kind of a problem, but let's check out what else is going on with this camera. So it does have a nice touch screen on the back, which makes using it very easy. But the problem again is gonna be, you're not gonna be able to see this touch screen when you're using it. The stabilization, as we've already seen through the vlogging test, is incredible. I do like how many customizable functions there are, but problems that you'll have, much like we've seen with like the Z6, the A7 III we're currently using, is right now, I don't know if it's recording me or not. So I have an awesome camera person over here that you already saw, the Everyday Wife. She's been helping me out for these videos, but I don't actually know if I'm recording right now. I don't know if I'm in focus. I don't know if the audio is good. I don't know anything about it. One of the problems with, you don't even necessarily just have to have a flip screen to do this. If you saw with like the XT3 and the XT30, they have little tally lights right here. One of the ways that this could be fixed is if this little focusing light right here could be turned on to be like a tally light to show you if the camera's like actually recording. So I hope we're recording, I hope we're in focus. Fiddly, it is a little more fiddly than Panasonic cameras normally end up being. If they could have given us a flip screen, it would have been a whole lot better. Also, as we saw in the vlogging test, this thing's a beast. So trying to maneuver this or trying to manage this as we're like trying to make videos, that's not easy. Okay, back to the video. And we're back. So we decided to buy a Panasonic S1. Where do we go from here? Or what does the upgrade path / ecosystem look like? Now this is kind of odd. This is a more unique situation than the other new full frame mirrorless cameras have to operate in. The L mount that the S1 is rocking is currently an agreement between 3 separate manufacturers to use for their own camera systems. So there are currently a stable of lenses that will work with the S1 right now, but honestly, they are so darn, those Leica lenses are so darn expensive that they are pretty much priced out of range for most of us online content creators. And if you like spending that kind of money, you could very easily be in the range of a dedicated cinema camera. I mean, some of those lenses are like $5,000, almost the price of a C200. There are some native Sigma lenses on the horizon that will give some reasonably priced primes to the system, but as of today, you have 3 Panasonic options: a 70-200 f4, a 50mm 1.4, and the kit 24-105 f4. So you are limited, but not at the same time. Plus, soon there will be the Sigma MC21 adapter that will give you access to Sigma's EF mount lenses. So if you already have a range of those, here shortly it should have the most amount. Having used the S1 for the last few weeks, it's a fine, probably great camera that has the best full frame stabilization and recording options currently on the market. If you need higher frame rates, soon the Nikon Z6 will have ProRes RAW. But I don't know, I have a hard time recommending it for the online content creator when you can get better recording capabilities, better accessories, better lenses, better app support, basically better everything else from the far cheaper GH5. So the S1 is not bad, and it probably is a fantastic camera for a certain segment of the population, but there's just a way better option out there for half the cost. Thanks for watching.